Probably.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadott, and with me, as always, interest-free for the first 6 months, Owen Adams.
Hello! The first 6 months. I can tell you from the entirety of my life, I've been interest-free from other people in the opposite sex for as long as I can remember. I mean, hello. My name is Snow.
Also interest-free from the other sex.
Much to his chagrin.
As much as he promised to lick Boom Boom's down, he just couldn't garner
It turned out that was a promise he could not get up to, you know?
Right.
He's like, I just picture every kind of interview goes the same way, right? Like you hear Snow, he's on Arsenio Hall. I think that would be the show he would like, right? He's having a good time. He's doing it, and everyone's like, so what exactly does it mean to a licky bum bum down, And he's like, well, people laugh about this, but it's really a spiritual thing. I like to believe my true fans actually understand it. And then he gets outside, and then there's like 1,000 people, both genders, be like, hey, I hear you eat ass! And he's like, no!
Is that why you wear those stupid glasses to hide your pink eye?
Don't lie, Snow!
We know you tossed the salad. Well, I love a nice garden salad before my meal. Yeah, I bet you do. We're off to a good start.
Yeah. Hello to Sinister Minister. Hello to Tiny Beth Secret. How are you? Hope you're all having a good time.
Someone has to.
Yeah. We're having a good day today, aren't we? How are you, Jonathan? How are things?
I'm doing pretty good. Things are alright.
And do you eat ass? This is the serious... Just to keep it on topic.
Look, I will not confirm or deny
that you've licked a bum bum down.
Right. What I will say is I would.
You would? Well, okay. So what I like is, you will not confirm or deny, but you don't want to close a door.
Right. I don't want to burn that ass bridge.
Burn that ass bridge. I would suggest if there's any burning involved, you are probably doing it wrong.
Or, oh so right. Maybe that's what Elvis was singing about, with burning love.
Or Johnny Cash with Ring of Fire. Which works in multiple levels, I would say.
I mean, I could be wrong.
What? What do you say? Have we lost John again? I lost John again before we did this. Can you hear me, Jonathan? Oh, god damn it. John and I are having some connection issues today. Which we believe that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ may be responsible. For reasons that we can only speculate upon. So I've basically lost Jonathan right now, which is a bit difficult because John's audio gets streamed through my computer. So I'm just going to try and re-obtain John, and we had a good beginning to the show today. We don't want to lose that sweet, sweet momentum, but when you mess with the God of Abraham, you don't know what will happen. I'm going to attempt to recall him. We'll try this again. You guys can hear the bleep bleep sounds. All right, see if we can find Jonathan. Calling Jonathan. Paging Jonathan. Oh. Sweet music. John!
Hello.
Yay! We lost you, so we're having one of those days.
Yeah, apparently.
Did you call our Lord and Savior a cuck again?
Every chance I can.
I mean, to be fair, he requests it, so...
Give us this day our daily cuck.
Sinister Minister says, "Here, John, come here, boy." I was calling to you while we couldn't find you. I didn't see it like dog-like though. I felt it was more like Con. But John. Oh, you are shitting me. Reconnecting. There is a poor network connection. All right, I think we might want to have to persuade Jonathan to maybe reboot his router. Tiny Bit Secret says, maybe it was all the ass talk. I mean, I'm pretty sure Skype can handle it, but maybe not. It's possible. John? John?
Hello?
Jonathan?
No. Okay. I figured it out. It's
Okay.
my fault.
Okay. You son of a bitch.
It actually isn't. It is. Wow.
Well, you know, that's why they tell you, your insurance companies always say don't accept any blame, you know?
Because the other person involved has a right to just insult you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I absolutely T-boned you. You motherfucker. Hey.
And the police are like, I'm sorry, sir, there's nothing I could do. You did accept blame.
That's them's the rules.
He gets out a little book. It's got like rules of the road. Number 1, whoever smelt it dealt it. Number 2, whoever admitted the crime did the insult time.
And rule number 3, ass, grass, or gas. No one rides for free.
And then on the front, it's just got a little seal, like authorized by the authorized by the Department of Transport, Wisconsin. You're like,
last page, it's just in big bold words: trucking, keep on.
And then at the back of the book, it's got a little mud flap with a naked lady silhouette on.
Oh, I just got one of the saddest messages in the world from Owen. I just got a message from Owen and it says, "I lost you."
Yeah. I wasn't trying to find you.
It makes that song really
What's really
lackluster.
What's really distressing is that John and I are like brothers, really. You know, we're very close. I'm sure that's how he sees it. What he doesn't realize is that in real life we are brothers. And for the last 15 years, he's been in a coma. And all these shitty connection issues he brings are those moments where we think he's about to wake up. Like loved ones around. Come back to us, Jonathan. Return to us. And then it's just like the disconnections of him almost coming through, right? You know, almost making it. But it's something in his brain just keeps him coming back to the coma. And this shitty fucking podcast, week after week.
Well, what it is I'm just about to come back. And it's like, then I have to remind myself, what are you coming back to? Oh, yeah, Owen.
Every week we have that little chat like, oh yeah, where are we doing the show this week? What time? What's going on? That's like the doctor's assessment. They're like trying new medicines, you know what I mean? They're like,
oh, God. So how you been this week?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. I've been kicking back, watching TV. I'm still watching Quantum Leap. Haven't seen an episode like my pitch yet, which is good because it reminds me that it hasn't been done. Mostly chilling out, trying to get the house tidier. It's been a little cluttered lately. And I'm still doing my big playthrough of Assassin's Creed. I'm on to Assassin's Creed 3, Johnny's favorite. I'd forgotten how long that fucking prologue goes. Like I remember it being a while, but I didn't realize it was 3 hours.
Yeah, it goes places.
I mean, there is one really nice thing about that, actually. One thing that prologue... I mean, I think most people agree the prologue's like this... It's like... The prologue is like, you know, people who like show money to homeless people and then set it on fire because they're dicks. You know what I mean? People who do shit like that. That's the prologue to Assassin's Creed 3, right?
Wait,
They're like...
That's dick? That's a dick move?
John, you know you on a weekend... So the prologue's kind of like that, right? Like it goes, hey, look at this guy. He's like a posh British assassin who kills people in a theater, but he's really compassionate, right? And he's interesting. He's assembling all these guys, and he travels across the world and and stops mutinies and things like that, right? Wouldn't it be really nice? He's an interesting protagonist, right? And what if about 4 hours in we just replaced him with a lamppost with a bad haircut? That'd be kind of mean if we did that, right?
I mean, it worked great for Hideo Kojima.
Right. And it's so strange too, because that game had like 30 trailers. You remember? Like we all knew Connor the Native American was coming, right?
The Native American.
Well, we knew that it was a Native American hero, right? Like that was well known. He had like a tomahawk and stuff. And then he
was on the cover.
Right. Well, exactly. But then it was like, is this a bait and switch? You know what I mean? So everyone's like, who's this guy? And then it was just, that
would be amazing.
Just some dick. I mean, I like Haytham Kenway, right? Who doesn't? He's interesting. I'm reminding myself more of Assassin's Creed 3 as I get closer to it, and I'm hoping it doesn't actually fill in the way I remember it. But as the more I remember about the actual plot, I'm starting to realize that Achilles and Connor's relationship is like weirdly uncomfortable, where he's just like, here's this Native American boy I found. Let's make him do my dirty work I'm too old to do. Like, it's got that weird vibe. Right?
Alright. And that's the weird thing, is how kind of way on board Connor is with it. He's just like, hey, can you kill all these people for me? Yeah, alright.
Right, about 20 years goes past. He never asks why. He changes sides like 5 times. He has no ideal. It's strange.
Real quick, in the chat, I'm kind of confused by something here. Time by Secret says, mildly late because I was distracted, but Ken Lee
without John. Oh! Oh, haven't you ever seen this?
No.
You've never seen Ken Lee? I'll tell you what, I'll send it to you and you can enjoy Ken Lee. Let me see if I can find this. It's it's a pretty good video. I'll send it to you and I will entertain the chat while you're watching it. For people who've never seen the Ken Lee video, I guess John's about to see it for the first time. That'd be entertaining. That might be the right link, or that might be a link to our stream. Oh no, here we go. It's a very strange video. It's from, I think, the Bulgarian version of Pop Idol. It's really, really weird. But it's good, It's entertaining. You'll need the sound, and we'll all be able to hear it beautifully through your mic, and then get copyright claimed by some weird viral video people, I'm sure. But no, it's because Sinister Minister was saying, I'm lost without you. Because this is a version of that great song without you,
Gotcha.
Enjoy. Go for it. While John's watching that, yeah, so if you're enjoying my talk of Assassin's Creed, I'll be talking more of Assassin's Creed over on my channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams, which is very entertaining. I've got through too many Assassin's Creed games in too short a time at this point, so I'm kind of overthinking about it. A few I'm looking forward to get back to is Rogue, stuff like that. You watching it? Watching it, John?
I am. This is... Oh, okay, hold on one second. I'm getting no sound.
Oh.
Good.
Entertaining.
Oh, so apparently Skype does not like it when you try to... Because that's what I figured out what the problem was earlier. What was happening is that Skype was just straight up killing my headphones when I tried to load up the chat.
Oh, good.
So let me... Give me a second here. As much as I love Windows, it has not handled Bluetooth very well.
No. At least we're having an entertaining show this week with people getting to listen to me talk about videos you're struggling to load up properly. At least they missed the Jesus cuck thing. That was,
Oh, not anymore. Jerk.
I mean, when you think about it, substitutionary atonement. There we go. Substitutionary, that's the right word. Substitutionary atonement is kind of a cuck thing, right? It's a terrible joke. If I hadn't stammered over it, it would have worked out really well.
Alright. I'm gonna load this up on my phone.
Alright, it's got 18 million views. That's peer pressure to love it. Just keep that in mind.
Got it. Alright. How many? I don't know which one's which.
What are you just Googling it?
Yeah, I just...
Sinister Minister says, I think Black Flag Origins and Odyssey are good enough for me. Yeah, well, do you know they're pretty good ones? The series has its ups and downs, but it's not like you need to try and worry about playing them all if you're short of it. There will be another one next year, then another one, and then another one. And they'll just
I think
roll
I
with
have
that.
seen this before. Sorry.
After 10 minutes of radio silence and you tapping on things. Yeah, I seen it. Seen it. This is a lot of effort to get a reference, though, to be fair.
I'm really trying here. I'm just...
I believe it.
Cheesy mozzarella, tangy marinara meets Ruffles crunchy rich.
That's not it, by the way. There's nothing about cheesy marinara in it. I'm hearing it myself through your speakers and remembering.
Oh, she's Valentina. That's nice. I'm married to a Turk. He's from Bulgaria.
You guys are getting to hear John see the the Ken Lee video for the first time.
Don't you mean without you?
I like that. No.
Ken Lee, yeah.
It's a good video. This sounds like a longer version than the one I've seen. Still funny through a phone speaker.
Is she trying to sing this in Bulgarian?
No, in English, but learned phonetically.
Oh. Oh. I get it now. Oh.
Without you.
I like the one guy. I like English.
It's great, right?
I haven't really heard English.
Yeah, it's great. Tiny Bit Secret says it's very quiet through the speakers, though. Oh yeah.
Okay.
There you go. This is our new segment of the show. We hear half of John listening to viral videos.
It's a good time.
Hey, John, have you seen Pen, Pineapple, Apple, Pen? Let's fire it up. Round 2.
Pen, pineapple, apple, pen.
That's the worst one, though. It's such a constructed meme. You know what I mean?
Right. All right. Well, we're back.
Yeah,
So
that was worth it.
Creed.
Yeah. Which takes me to our ongoing regular weekly segment. Where we monetize, because I've been thinking about this, and I think I have another great way of monetizing the podcast, right? Bringing in a little moolah, right? I need a taste. I need a little something, you know?
I mean, between the two of us, you're literally the only one who's received money for streaming.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'd like some more money. So, Sinister Minister says, can you get John to chase a laser? Oh, no, scrap my thing. This is great. New monetization option. John plays with cat toys. I'm going to need you to do, like, you know, like the hunting butt wiggle? we'll do that for about 6 hours, right? And we'll film you in all sorts of little poses, you know, like holding on to little fluffy things, kicking them up and down in the air, like rolling around, exposing your belly, doing little butt wiggles and stuff from all kinds of angles, you know. Completely naked, because you're a cat. Cats don't wear clothes.
And then we'll say, like, at what point does this become a Pornhub category?
No. It's you being a cat. And then we'll edit it down, because 6 hours is a bit too much. We'll just get it to, like, best shots, you know, best, like, angles, things like that. Put in some music, kind of things that would be, like, you know, the kind of thing that would go well with, like, a slinky cat. I'm thinking, like, a bone, you know, something like that.
Or, you know, how about, like, dun, dun, dun.
No, I'm thinking more of like a bow chicka wow wow sort of sound. You know what I mean? And then, you know, yeah, we sell it to Pornhub.
Mm-hmm.
Deal?
Since Mr. says I'd pay for that. Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right. Well, you know my PayPal. Sort it out. Okay. So my pitch, I think, was more the long game, right? This was more my idea, right?
No, you get one pitch a show.
That was Sinister Minister's pitch. I was just elaborating it. I refuse to be restrained, otherwise I'll forget next week.
You co-opted his.
I don't develop these ideas well enough to remember them, John. But what we'll need is some glow-in-the-dark...
Clearly!
Some glow-in-the-dark paint, a cricket ball, a dentist's chair, some springs, a set of knives, a hoodie, and a full family tree for you.
A full family tree, like metaphorically, or like an actual tree?
No, like drawn up.
Called family.
Like drawn up. You know, like a genealogical report.
Hey, Mister, it's not some weird sex thing, is it? Well, so
No.
far, it kind of sounds like it could be.
No. Okay. So, as we've learned from the documentary video game series, The Assassin's Creed, everyone stores the Assassin's Creed. Everyone stores genetic memories in their brain, right?
Yeah.
You know,
DNA,
of their previous, right? They're locked in there. We just need an animus, which is basically like a dentist's chair, to unlock it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we get the animus, dentist chair.
Are you suggesting that you're going to build your own animus?
Maybe.
Oh, wait, are you convinced that the only thing you need is the dentist chair? Like...
I've played every Assassin's Creed game, and they never show you more than the chair. What more could there be?
Look, you visited the dentist like 28 times last year.
Or did I only do it once, and then did I remember previous genetic memories of other ancestors visiting the dentist chair?
And they all had the same... Like... The thing is, like, I know for a fact one of my ancestors was, like, a fur trader who brokered deals between Native American tribes.
Yeah, we're not doing that one.
He at least had some interesting shit going on in his life.
We're not doing that one.
Well, it's still better than the Addams clan and their dental problems.
Right, with the same dentist. Dental family, generation after generation, in the same practice that doesn't look like it would have been there for about 100,000 years, but has been.
Your two families have been intertwined in the most mundane way possible.
Right.
No marriage, no feuds, no murders, just cavities. Just nothing but goddamn cavities.
Sometimes it's the little things that keep bloodlines going, you know?
What binds these two clans together in destiny?
Dental adhesive.
Gingivitis.
So we take the animus.
Okay.
We put it in your apartment. We're going to need to sort of, you know, expand a little space, move some walls, knock down a few things.
Sure. I actually have a free wall you can knock down.
Yeah, perfect. We'll knock that down, and then we'll put the animus in front of where the wall used to be. That's where the animus will go. And then we'll use one of the knives to make the connection into your brain that I'm assuming it needs. Just pop that under the headspace, you know. I'm thinking the Matrix. Because, I mean, you gotta remember, Assassin's Creed...
Wait. Why don't we need a knife? Why can't we already use the access port there?
Oh! What? I beg your pardon?
Oh. No, the knife's fine. Forget I said anything.
Oh, are you talking about, like, one of the other entry points? Is that how you think the Animus works?
No, yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
It would be the opposite way to Desmond Miles. If it was about you, it would be like, Jesus, we can't get John off this Animus. Fucking John, get off the Animus, the bleeding effect. I'm not bleeding! I need more time!
I'm a pro, I don't bleed anymore.
So, the Animus, basically... we assemble this, we send you back. You know, we will need to be true assassins, so we need to assemble a piece of Eden, hence the cricket ball and the glow-in-the-dark paint. And we'll get you a wrist blade. We'll take one of the knives and just wrap it in elastic bands. You know, like cat's cradle with string?
Sure.
And you know when you, like, you do that with elastic bands, and then you sort of, you know, twist something round in it so that when you let it go, it just, like, spins. You know what I mean?
Can we just use, like, a slap bracelet?
No. Rubber bands. So we put the rubber bands around your wrist.
So every time you just goes...
Right. Just on your wrist. Just a sharp knife. But it's twisted all kinds of different directions, so it's like moving in like a full sphere. You know, like... I
mean, far more deadly than just the normal
linear
motion.
Absolutely. Imagine if Ezio had like a spherical saw on his wrist. He'd have taken down Rodrigo Borgia substantially faster.
See, I'd rather see this first unveiled with, like, Michael Fassbender.
But the problem is, you have to make sure that you make your attack before that stops, because it's not really secured into the bands. So when that momentum finishes, that knife is going to fly out, and the direction will be unpredictable. So...
Because every time I use it, I'm just holding my arm out as far as way I can, like...
Right. I mean, that's if it doesn't get an artery first, to be fair.
Right.
But that's why you've got to make sure you just keep your arms down on the Animus at all times. On the Animus. And then what we do is, so in the Assassin's Creed series, because they are true assassins...
At what point are we getting money?
I'm getting to that, Jonathan.
You're missing a key point of these schemes, I feel like, is the money part.
Right, but look, so this is the way I see it, right? The true assassins in the Assassin's Creed games, they're always trying to find, like, the piece of Eden, right?
Sure.
Right? We've already got the piece of Eden. We done that bit. We sorted it at the beginning before we got the Animus chair. Right. And we're already ahead of them because we've got an Animus with, like, adjustable heights and stuff, so it's more comfy. So, what we can do is instead, now we've got the piece of Eden, we can go back and visit your ancestors just to find, you know, like, valuable shit from the past. Which I think would be easier, because what you could do is, you know...
Wait, hold on. So... I mean, you're aware that the Animus thing isn't, like, about control, right? Like, I can't go back into the Animus and control what my ancestor does. I just have to relive what they already did.
You don't know that.
So the problem is that your scheme requires your bastard ancestor to convince my bastard ancestor 300 years ago.
I'm not getting on the Animus. It's got knives on it.
What I'm saying is, for this to work, is that your ancestor would have had to already have convinced my ancestor to have tried to find a bunch of valuable stuff.
So why don't we do it now, right? For our kids. Anyway, we're getting off point. So, what we do is
I think we got the point covered. It's strapped to my wrist with a fucking shoddy rubber band.
If it was good enough for Leonardo da Vinci, it's good enough for Jonathan Cadott, alright?
Wasn't he a eunuch?
I don't think so.
I thought Leonardo DiCaprio, like, cut a ball.
Leonardo DiCaprio? Definitely. But Da Vinci, probably not.
No, Da Vinci, never. He loved his balls.
They do say Da Vinci might have been gay. There are people who think Da Vinci was gay. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Eunuch at the same time.
No, but what I mean is that might be what you're thinking of. I don't think he was a eunuch.
Okay, well, no, that's fine.
Anyway, so I get what you're saying, right? The Animus is not a thing that lets you change history, right? Even though we have perfected Animus technology, it's not a time machine, right? I get it, right? Maybe our Animus will be better than the ones in the game. You don't know. We haven't tried it yet. But
right, we got it right from an accredited dentist.
Absolutely. And
4 out of 5 dentists approve our Animus.
And I think it's going to make sense because, the thing about it is they're going to have the technology, aren't they, right? Because think about it. Dentists deal with teeth. Teeth, right? What does teeth begin with? T-E, Templars. So, they are...
Got it. Dentalars.
Absolutely. And, the dentists always say, your mouth is like a temple. Well, mine always does.
One says that.
Mine always does. And I wake up with a really weird taste in my mouth.
Dust and full of insects.
Your mouth is like a temple. People in the Middle East have been bombing each other for years over it.
It's ruined. It's just ruined.
Your mouth is like a temple. We need a grant from the National Trust before we can even begin to fix this. But no, so this is the plan as I see it. Because you're right, the Animus only gives you the ability to see the memories, right?
Hello, Chicken Lisa.
Hello, Chicken Lisa. How you doing?
You're just in time.
So what you have to do is go back to ancestors where there's a good reason to believe that they would have access to knowledge that we could use in the future to find treasures. Like, for example, just as a pie in the sky thing. Say if we did some research and it turned out you were related to like an ancient Egyptian an ancient Egyptian burial guy, you might know where some tombs full of valuable stuff are buried that they haven't found yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, I would be not a true British person if I wasn't in favor of stealing artifacts from other countries. So, my plan is we just start at the beginning. Step 1, we pop you in the Animus, and we go back and relive the life of your dad.
My dad.
Right, that's the plan.
My dad!
yeah, your dad, right?
My dad.
Every minute of it. Now, here's the one thing, because I never quite figured this out about the Animus. Does the time it takes you to relive a memory take the exact length of time it would have taken them?
No. I know where this is going. No. I'm pulling the plug. Nope.
What?
Nope.
I have no idea what you mean.
Nope. Just nope.
All I'm saying is, if we don't go from the very beginning to the point you are conceived, how will we know where your dad hid the valuables?
I knew it. I fucking knew it. As soon as he said, we'll go to your dad, I'm like, nope. I know where he's going with this.
All right.
I'm not on board. I'll do the crazy bus thing. I'll do the Jonathan Cadott core. All right. No.
What? I'm just picturing like an Animus post-credit sequence. And you're like running, through one of those like loading screens, And then it just says at the end, turns out I was my dad's greatest hidden treasure all along.
Hey, what's going on here? I don't know, but he keeps on trying to use that wrist blade of his over and over and over again. He should know how dangerous that is.
And then profit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you're missing a few steps there.
Well, all right. Let's go back to the fur trader guy.
Hey, guess what? Tesco was selling Freddos for 10p today. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Freddos are good.
All right. And Tiny Beth didn't know. See, there we go. We'll load you into the Animus so you can go back and tell Tiny Beth's secret through message.
That's not how the Animus works, John. You can't go back and change history. You were the one raising this objection.
And she went to 2 Tesco's today. 2! And neither time did she get Freddos for 10p. What? I think we should talk about that for 2 hours. Let's just... Tesco's, huh? Crazy.
Why don't you want this podcast to be successful?
So what are Freddos?
I think we need to talk about this. Why are you so reluctant to us earning a little bit of money here? Is it because deep down you believe you don't deserve to be compensated for your art?
Look, I'm just saying that I don't think we need a scheme to afford Freddos for 10p.
You don't even know what Freddos are. They could be bombs.
I could spring it. I could spring that. Wait, they could be bombs. Tesco sells bombs.
Yes. They sell Tom Jones's late 90s single Sex Bomb. Or I assume they did at the time.
Time figure says, well, gee, John, if you can't take the chat seriously. Oh, now this is on me.
But no, okay, what ancestor would you prefer to go to?
None, because no matter what, this ends with me banging one of my ancestors.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Or being banged by
do you know
one
what?
of them.
You're the one who keeps going there. I didn't even say it till you put the thought in my head. It hadn't even crossed my mind, to be honest.
Yeah.
It genuinely, it's all on you, sir. And I really don't appreciate you lowering the tone of the show like that.
Hey, you want to go back and talk about how Jesus is a cuck?
Yeah, well, sure, if you want to, offend our religious audience too. I don't know why your mind goes to these places. Terrible.
God, I hate you so much.
Freddos are little bars of dairy milk shaped like a cartoon frog.
Oh, nice.
They're like a cheap kind of chocolate. They used to be very, very cheap, and then they're seen as a very extreme example of inflation because they rise like faster than anything else in price. Or are they the caramel ones? One of them has caramel, and I never know which one it is. But yeah, they're like little chocolate bars.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty good, tasty. I like them. They've been around since the 1930s.
Sister Minister really just calling us out here, going, yeah, big dip in the watch numbers. Thanks, man.
It was when you stopped talking about the important subject that we were talking about. I was trying to give people financial advice, and you were, resistant to it for some reason. Teddy Secret says the Taz one had caramel. Oh, okay. Cool. You're right there, John. You
Guys,
seem a little out of sorts. Seem a little shaken.
I'm okay. I decided to stop drinking coffee and just go right to wine, but that's neither here or there.
So, serious question.
Sure.
As a jumping off point from, not to suggest that my financial stuff was not serious, but if you did actually have a dentist chair, are there any ancestors you'd like to go back and relive the memories of that you know about?
I actually would.
Is it your dad?
No, God, no.
Thank God. I was worried for a moment, to be honest. You leapt at it.
So here's a weird thing, like, here's what I know about like my ancestors, right?
Okay.
It's a really weird thing. So of course I know my dad, right?
Oh, your mind just keeps going back there, John. I don't know.
Okay. I know my dad, right? But all I know of my grandfather on my dad's side is that he died in a grain elevator when my dad was 3.
Wait, that's the only thing you know?
Pretty much. That's pretty much all I know of him.
I mean, presumably, if your dad was 3, that's probably close to all your dad really knows of him directly.
Right, exactly. I do know he was in the military. I know he was in the army. But other than that, all I know is that, yeah, he died in a grain elevator, which is
pretty shitty, though, isn't it? To be in the army and be trained all those years to be like, yeah, look out for those opposing soldiers, and then to die in an elevator. You know what I mean?
Oh no. Okay, you actually don't even understand what this is. All right, I'm not talking about like an elevator. A grain elevator is.
Oh, I think I know more what you mean. You're talking about a piece of equipment more than a person elevator, right?
It's even worse. Okay, so
I'm Googling it. You explain it, but I'll Google it.
Basically, how he died was over here. We generally store grain.
Oh no, I see what you mean.
In massive like silos filled with grain, right? And this isn't uncommon to happen, especially back in the day before there was a lot of safety equipment. But if you fall into the grain, you essentially will sink into it.
Like quicksand.
Yes. So my grandfather essentially drowned in grain.
Probably on one of those low-carb diets like a week before.
God damn it!
Couldn't fucking resist. Sorry.
You're a horrible human being, you know that?
It just came out. I didn't mean it to. So did he...
So, needless to say, I don't want to relive his memories because A, I'm already on a low-carb diet and I don't want to relive that again. And 2, I don't want to know what it's like to drown in a grain elevator. Call me crazy.
For like 1 minute, really satisfying. Like, really fucking satisfying.
Oh my god, I freaking love carbs.
Oh shit.
In the chat, Time Master goes, Owen, just no.
Just the last call. I thought I could eat them all, but no. Oh, I'm sorry. That is a sad story. It sounds like a horrible way to die. Like, I live in fear of dying in a way where I'm, like, trapped alone. Do you know what I mean?
I think Bester said the chat judges you. Yeah, no, that does sound horror. Like, there's certain ways I definitely fear dying. One is drowning.
Yeah.
Drowning legit seems terrible.
They say it's really uncomfortable too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Sorry, uncomfortable understates a bit, but you know what I mean? They say it's not, like, of all the different ways to die, it's apparently, like, one of the most physically unpleasant. Which the weird thing about that is I don't know how anybody would know. Oh, I guess it's people who came very, very close to drowning and then were resuscitated.
Sure. Or just understanding what happens physically, you know. to your physiology when it happens, and just being able to
Or just
infer,
a desire to scare the shit out of weak swimmers. Oh yeah, I hear it really hurts. I did the science and everything. You sure you want to go to the pool?
Yeah, me and my buddy Bill ran the test. Who's Bill? Oh, you probably won't get to meet Bill.
Bill and I were at a really nice party, but we didn't want you there.
But yeah, that's one of them. Burning. That's another one I don't want to die at. Yeah. Being lit on fire.
I heard the worst thing about that.
What's that?
So there was every so often there'll be protesters who will set themselves on fire in protest, you know.
Yeah.
And there was
the famous one in Vietnam.
Yeah,
you know.
But there was some a few years ago, like recently,
Okay.
and there were people reporting that the person's last words were, "Oh my god, I didn't think it would hurt this much," and that will stay. And that's not even a joke. It sounds like one, but it's not. That will stay in my mind. Like, of course, it would be worse than you expected. But the idea of just being consciously able to say to people, "This is even shittier than you could imagine."
just look at, you don't know. I did hear though that when it comes to fire, I guess there is kind of a quick way out of it. Now I don't know if this is true or not, but from what I understand is that if you are ever engulfed in flames, if you inhale deeply, the hot air will essentially explode your lungs and pretty much put you down almost instantly.
It's those same fucking scientists again. I can't believe she believed that. It doesn't work, my lungs!
Well, no, they won't be saying that at all. There's no air, you know. The lungs have exploded. There's nothing to push through the vocal cords.
There's a really quick way out of it. Set yourself on fire and then also
Shoot
carry
yourself.
a gun.
Yeah. Hello, Lou's Corner. We're having a cheerful topic right now.
Hi, how you doing? Tiny Best Secret says, "Run, Luz!"
And the third way that I do not want to end up dying, and this actually straight up comes from a movie that I watched today. But I mean, I rewatched it today while at work.
Is it being thrown into a large pit by your apprentice who refused to kill his son, and you were like zapping him with lightning? And then your apprentice was just like, "No, fuck you," and you didn't see it coming or anything. And then later on, you get this really shitty digitally added scream put on.
This movie was actually pretty good. It was actually The Mummy. The scenes where he gets when those characters get like eaten to death by like locusts or whatever.
Yeah.
That seems horrifying. Like being eaten to death by small creatures.
Yeah.
Like that's another way I don't really want to die.
I want to die quickly, you know? Like, could I just die incredibly quickly? My biggest fear is being aware for some length of time that I'm about to die, and there's nothing I can do. Like, I live in fear of, you know those people who have, like, strokes that end up being fatal, but they're on their own, and the first stroke leaves them unable to, like, call for help and things like that, you know?
So oddly enough, I'm actually the exact opposite of you. If I'm going to die, I kind of want to have some sort of foresight that I am dying.
It's not so much that, it's the thought of just being trapped in a suffering position for a long time.
See, that doesn't necessarily scare. I mean, like, suffering sucks, all right? So you want to know one of my worst fears about dying is, more so than all those, is, and this is just a case of me watching too many like World War II movies and playing too many first-person shooters.
Not taking enough people with you.
Well, no, it's that guy who gets sniped, right?
Oh, right.
Right, you know, it's always like
on the plane home.
Or, you know, it's like there's always that scene, right, where they're like the two guys are like walking, and it's like, "Oh, how's it going?" and you just hear that noise and the guy's head like blows back, whatever. That seems horrible to me. Like to have no clue that you are about to die. Like granted, you're not gonna know, right? You're dead. You're dead. But just for the chance that there's that millisecond where you have to come to realization that this is how I die. The culmination of all my life just ended with this bullshit bullet going into my head that I never saw coming. Right? That fucking sucks to me. That just sounds horrible.
Hold on. I just need to change something here. Yeah. Just notes for later.
Okay, thanks. Real quick to catch up on the chat. Time Best Secret says, this week is pretty depressing, to be honest, and also terrifying. Sister Minister says, paging Dr.
Mengele. Joseph Mengele. He was the creepy Nazi concentration camp doctor. Did experiments on twins and things.
Okay.
Nice guy.
Loose Corner says, well, all I heard was someone was on fire. God's sake, I wanted a better start to the week.
So did they.
Yeah. Sorry. Sister Minister says, stat.
So I'll go back to my question in a moment then, because we veered onto another topic. So here's my question to you. I suppose I'll think about my answer to you, right? You find out you've been poisoned, right?
Okay.
And it's one of those, there is no antidote. The poison will definitely kill you in an hour, right?
Okay.
But until this is one of those bullshit TV poisons where there is absolutely no long-term ramifications so long as you get the antidote up to, do you know what I mean? You're going to die after an hour, but until then, you're pretty much going to be fine, right?
Right. It's just like instant.
Yeah, it's time-release cyanide with no cure.
Okay.
What do you do with your hour? And all the clown museums are closed.
Well, fuck. I mean, this is going to sound really depressing. Like, I know for one, I'm not going to do the whole make amends thing.
You said it so emphatically, I'm just picturing you, like, going burning bridges. Fuck you! And you! I'm dying! I always hated you!
I mean, that's probably more my style, honestly. Like I can see myself, like, actually, you know what? One of the first things I'm going to do, right? I'm going to drive to my work. I'm going to go in there, and where I work, they have a bar that I'm going to just go there, hop the bar, down a bunch of alcohol, flip off everyone I can, say a bunch of obscenities, leave, right? Leave. And then, honestly, I just might... Okay, are we talking winter or summertime?
You choose.
Okay, if it's nice out, all right? If it's not unpleasant to be outside, after I get done with that, I might...
Oh, we lost you, John? Oh, you blanked, so I didn't get the... Oh, after that, you might... And then...
I might just find a nice place on the river, drink. Honestly, just, I mean, because everything else that you could do after that really doesn't serve you any purpose. It's just going to make everyone else kind of like feel shittier.
Okay. What if you want to do that?
Well, then yeah, go for it. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I think if I'm for sure going to die, I'd rather do it in isolation, just to my own devices.
See, in my personal plan, I know for a fact that I want someone there. I know exactly who. Okay, so here's my vision for this. I've only got an hour, but when I was a kid in high school, there was this other guy who made my life like a living hell, right? Really horrible guy, did it for years, enjoyed it. No repentance, just a piece of shit, right? But I know where he lives, right? Because he still lives in the area, because he's one of those kind of people who never got away from his hometown. So, I'd get to his house, right? And then I'd time it for like 10 minutes before the time is up, right? You know? And then I'd just go in and just start a fight with him, right? And then at the sort of the peak of
You
the fight,
implicate him in murder?
at the peak of the fight, just as it gets kind of close to the final minute, right? I'd sort of run out into the streets. I'd shout, "He's gonna kill me! He's gonna... He said he's been after me for years, you know?" And then I'd say something really insulting, so he'd like throw the final blow, you know? And then,
Right.
you know. But I try and make sure there were like tons of witnesses around. You know what I mean?
So...
And then I'd spend the first 45 minutes on the way, like, faking him sending me threatening emails and things, you know?
Let's hear. Just get up a chat. Lewis Course says, "Oh, absolutely love." Now, Lewis, how would you like to die? I think I'd rather choke on a biscuit. Haha, nice. The doctor said 10. 10 what? 987. Sorry to keep you waiting. That's really funny, actually.
You're terrible. But yeah, no. What are you saying? There's something wrong with how I want to spend my final hour?
No, it's fine. I'm all for it. Actually, one of my favorite things I ever heard was one of the guys from Achievement Hunter, Jeremy Dooley, and one of their podcasts was talking about if he ever had to kill himself, how he would do it, right? And he said what he wanted to do was to fashion a noose made out of razor wire, right? And then glue his hands to the sides of his head and then jump off of a high place, right?
This sounds elaborate.
Right. Well, everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, the idea is the razor wire would slice through my neck and remove my head completely. But my hands are glued to the sides of my head, so when they find my body, it's going to look like I ripped my own head off."
It's really funny.
And I'm going to be like, wow, he was very angry. That seems really funny to me. But no, just, okay, to answer your original question, if there was a ancestor I would like to see, it would actually be a great grandfather of mine, Michael Cadotte. He there's like a statue to him in Wisconsin. There's
really?
Like, what's that?
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. So what his big claim to fame is that he was a fur trader in the area. Now, rather than treat the native population poorly, he actually integrated himself and his company.
Oh, he's got a Wikipedia page.
What's that?
He's got a Wikipedia page.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Oh, that says his name's Michel here.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's pronounced Michael, but I guess that's the anglicized version because he was French Canadian.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so he was actually well known for brokering agreements and treaties between native tribes to avoid bloodshed. And in fact, there's a reason why a certain tribe of Native Americans were never removed from Wisconsin. Like, a lot of the tribes were removed with all the other ones and, pushed out on the Trail of Tears, and it's horrible. But there was one group that didn't get forced out, and it's because Michael Cadotte brokered a treaty between the U.S. government and this tribe that basically said, hey, as long as this tribe does not join up with this rebellion that's going on, they can stay. And so he brokered the treaty, and they were allowed to stay essentially on their ancestral lands.
Okay. And where do the Templars come into this?
They're the U.S. government.
Bastards.
But yeah, it's there's a town in Wisconsin called Cadotte, Wisconsin. It's named after him. His wife, who was she was a prominent member of the Ojibwe tribe up north. There's an island named after her, Christian name, because they gave her a Christian name back then, which was Madeline. And there's an island in Wisconsin called Madeline Island that's named after her.
That's
And
a really
actually,
that's a really shitty way to name something after someone, isn't it? We're naming it after you. What are you calling it? Madeline. My name's not Madeline. It is now.
Right?
How'd you like your island, Madeline?
But if you actually go on that island, you can Michael Cadot's grave is there, and it's super old and like weathered and like I don't know. It's really kind of cool.
I like to imagine everywhere he went though, people were throwing paint on him like "Fur is murder." Tiny Betsuka says, "Hey Owen, how many of your ancestors have a Wikipedia page?" I don't know, Charlemagne. That's a joke because pretty much every white person is descended from Charlemagne. He got around.
Or Genghis Khan, right? Those are the two.
Right. It's pretty much unless you're a Native American or pretty much unless you're a Native American, you're probably related to Charlemagne or Genghis Khan these days. I would offer my own answer to this, except I don't know much about my ancestors because both my dad's mother was adopted, but quietly. They didn't talk about it, but they knew she was adopted. And my mom thinks she's adopted, but doesn't know for certain, but doesn't know much about her parents' family either. So, like, I know nothing about my ancestors, weirdly, so I don't know. It would be a surprise for me to find out.
I'd be actually really interested in figuring out kind of more on my mom's side, because the funny thing is like, well, I've never met any of my grandparents, and I actually never met a lot of my family on my dad's side. I know a lot about that side of the family because it's actually well recorded. Because I got, like I said, I got lucky in that my family history transcends into.
Did your granddad on your mom's side fill grain silos?
He designed them.
I'll get that, Cadot. Never will these two families be united.
Son of a bitch. But no, I'd actually like to learn more about my mom's side. Because sorry, I completely lost track. I was actually looking something up on Wikipedia. All I know about my mom's side of the family is that she hails from immigrants who were Czechoslovakian and Yugoslavian, which now Yugoslavia is now Serbia, I want to say.
Isn't Yugoslavia still Yugoslavia?
I don't think so.
Czechoslovakia is split in two, but I don't know much about you. Oh, okay, yeah, I know it was a country and it isn't anymore. You're right. It's now...
it's a confederation between Serbia and Montenegro.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, probably. I guess. Yeah. After the breakup, the republics of Serbia and Montenegro formed a reduced federation. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, here we go. Secession, 2006 to present. 2006, Montenegro became an independent nation after results of a referendum. Serbia and Montenegro no longer exist. Serbia became the legal successor of Serbian. Okay, so it's Serbia. And then the Republic of Kosovo declared independence from Serbia. Right? So it's that whole kind of nightmare situation over there.
Yeah, well, there was an awful war between the Serbs and the Kosovans in the late 90s. Terrible.
Right. Yes, yes, it was a lot of horrible things happened over there. See here, include 115 states. Okay, never mind. But yeah, I have family from over there, and what I'm actually kind of interested in. The one thing I'm most interested in is that, from what I understand, is the family on my mom's side that hails from Czechoslovakia comes from an area, I want to say in like Bohemian region.
Right.
where I read somewhere at the time, something like 75% of the people there were actually Jewish. So I'm actually kind of curious if I can trace it back far enough to find out that if I do come from some sort of Jewish heritage. Not that it like matters much to me at all, like religiously.
I know you. I know you. You'd be one of them though. You'd transfer. You'd get the family tree, and then the next day you'd be like, "So I did my ancestry. Oy vey! You should see the mushuganas I got in my family tree."
Nothing but latkes for me.
Oh, yeah. So I was just checking over the final Ancestry.com paperwork over a bagel and some matzo ball soup. And
it's actually it does, for me, it would be kind of nice, right? In a weird way. Because granted, I would never, I don't believe in God of any sort. And I understand that there's, much like the Native American part of me, that I don't broadcast a lot,
except live on this show over the internet.
to prove a point is that I know that there's more to it than just having the heritage. There's a culture and a living experience that goes with that. Which is why it was really stupid when Elizabeth Warren said what she did. But,
well, I mean, like, you know, if it wasn't for all the Assassins and Templar things going on, Desmond would be right down there, like getting his tribal ID. No. Yeah. Rakatanokan, Connor Kenway, definitely. True.
Yeah.
I was there, man.
There is something I do feel like I have sort of missed out a little bit on in life, and
you've decided it's Judaism.
No, it's the feeling of being a part of a larger group. You know what I mean? I get it that a lot of times it doesn't. I don't think it necessarily would translate into real life, but I feel like there's a sort of like shorthand between people, even if they don't know each other, if they know they have like that similar background. Like I see it a lot.
He's doing it, listeners. He's preparing for the Yiddish saga of John's life. We had, in Dragon Ball Z, you've got like the Saiyan saga, the Frieza. John's can be roughly like drawn up as the White Saga, the Native American saga, and the Yiddish saga coming soon. But it's fine. He's just prepping us. This is like Akira Toriyama, like laying down the seeds for what's coming next. John's just getting us ready for the Yiddish saga. It's coming. I don't want anybody to be unprepared when it happens. And then we've got Black, Chinese, and I don't know, Mass Shooter to come. I've got to throw something in there to stop him getting that holiday.
This minister says the smallest larger group ever. Yeah. No, okay, let me explain what I mean, right? So I see this a lot in terms with other like Native Americans, right? Right. Because where I live, we have a large, what we call powwow grounds. Right. And we hold powwows here that attracts many Native Americans from many tribes who do what they call the powwow trail, where they go like kind of across the country every summer, going from powwow to powwow. Okay, that's still a thing that happens to this day.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of desire to preserve it,
right?
Specifically,
right, exactly.
If for its own merits, just for the sake of preserving it.
Right. And so a lot of these people, even though they're from different tribes and don't even know each other personally, have a sort of shorthand when it comes to how they interact, because they share certain experiences that they can fall back on, right?
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah. And to me, it seems like kind of nice. Like, and I sort of wish I would have had that in some sort of way in my life.
I agree. I totally agree completely. And I think it's common, not to get all political on it, but I think that's something that it is common for white people to feel.
Right.
Because white people's shared thing is a legacy of imperialism and pain. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think it's common to kind of want the other thing, but it does always make me...
It's a sense of kinship, right?
Right, but it does always make me think of that that Seinfeld episode where Bryan Cranston converts to Judaism and starts telling Jewish jokes. But no, I get it. I completely get it. It's a desire to feel like in some way you lose. Like, and there are white versions of it too, like like Sicilians and Catholics, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But yeah, I've never had that in my life. I've never had that kind of like community.
And like for me, it's one of those things where, like, I don't get me wrong. Like, if I found out that I had some sort of Jewish heritage, I would never be like, okay, well now I'm going to temple and everything like that. No, I'm not going to do that.
You would be Mr. Yom Kippur. I'm onto you.
But I would like to then be able to learn more about it and not feel like a complete outsider, like trying to learn about someone new. I would feel like, okay, I'm trying to learn a part about myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the one reason well, not the one reason. I mean, there's a lot of things about my mom's side of the family that is kind of a mystery to me that I would like to know.
And yet, you were so dismissive of the animus I wanted to give you.
Yes, I'm dismissive of your animus, not the animus as a concept.
I have yet to hear you raise one reasonable objection to my animus.
Oh, the fact that it's just a dentist chair.
Which is what animuses are, Jonathan.
No! There's a deep science behind them. Don't tell me any different.
Oh, look at Mr. Jonathan Cadot belittling the science that went into the design of the dentist chair. Like that was just a stand and a squeaky bit.
You know very well that the inventor of the dentist chair was just a normal-ass guy who made recliners.
All those...
Who went, wait, if I then rebranded this as a dentist chair, I could sell it for like $1,000 more.
All those people with degrees in design and ergonomics and the medicine involved in not giving dentists bad backs, slaving away for hours for John to be like, ooh, there's no science in a dentist chair. Whoop, 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 whoop. I hope the next time you go to the dentist, they just give you a chair. Like just 4 wooden legs, perfectly square. And then be like, tilt back on that. Balance while I'm drilling.
I'd do it just to spite you. I don't think you fully understand the level that I'm willing to go.
Comes to the stream next week with a fucking drill wound down the side of the face. It's worth it.
Fuck you, Owen!
Do you know, most weeks I don't feel like I deserve the hate campaign you've levied against me.
What are you, Trump now?
But this week I sort of feel like I may have earned it. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Fake news.
What's my? Because I'm actually, I've been idly scrolling up and down on the MSN main page this whole time, And one of the stories is, of course, from Fox News. Opinion: 2 years of Trump hatred accomplished what?
That's a question.
Yes, that's it is phrased as a question.
Can a question be an opinion?
I don't know. Let's see here. Liz Peek: 2 years of Trump hatred and Democrats' resistance has accomplished what exactly?
Nothing. Is that... Next question! I don't get that. Like, oh, damn it, we lost John again. Alright. Doop-a-doop-doop. Hopefully John won't be too long. Doop-doop-doop. How are you guys at home? You having a good time? You enjoying the show? We're having some fun, aren't we? Doing the old podcasty show that you love. We've lost John at the moment. I'm actually going to attempt to call him again, and we'll see if we can get him back. Hope you're enjoying the funky Skype music. Hey, John. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was opening that. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it was your fault again.
Yeah, no, it was opening that damn web. I gotta figure out these headphones, these Bluetooth headphones I have, because like, it does this stupid thing where if I'm opening something that like wants to use my headphones, it just disconnects them.
Okay. So, what were you saying? Something about Trump?
Oh, no, I started reading a book.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'm gonna move on to my topic.
Aye.
Actually, 1 second. I'm gonna entertain the troops here. I'm gonna go get myself another cup of coffee before I start talking.
All right, I will entertain the troops. Hello, troops. As you know, you're all gonna die tomorrow in what will be, no doubt, the suicide mission of your life. But in that mood, I give to you Captain America. No, I never know what to say. So the weird thing is, this has been a bit of a weird episode. And I know that this episode's been a bit weird because when I started the show, I was acutely aware that I had nothing to talk about. And so when I have nothing to talk about, I make like a little deal with myself, which is just say whatever like comes into your head and run with it. And don't let John be like, yada yada yada, Meshuggah interrupting me, oy vey, Yom Kippur, and getting in my way. That sounds like I'm actually making fun of Jews now, because people who might be listening...
You sound incredibly anti-Semitic right now.
People might assume I actually think John's Jewish, so that would be the difficulty. Listen to the whole show before you judge me on my rampant anti-Semitism. But other than that, I've been kind of allowing myself to run with it, and so that... allowing myself to run with whatever pops into my brain today, which, you know, let me, you know, insult John's dead grandfather. And yeah, anti-Semitism, of course. That was not what that was. You were aware of the context, Jonathan. You can... all right, fine. We'll just sit here playing our usual game of pee or coffee machine. The show used to be a lot more like this. This is not even the worst Assassin's Creed related joke we've had on the show. But you have to go a long way back to get the other one. That Richard Dawkins. That Richard Dawkins is a monster. I still, do you know, if that game was made though, I would play it.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
I don't even remember what it was called. Was it like Assassin's Creed?
Pre-order and get all the bonuses.
What was it? I think it was called like Assassin's Creed Missing Link.
No, it just became Assassin's Creed
Chimp Fucker.
Yeah.
Tiny Basiga says, part of me thinks I should sleep, but like a car crash, I can't look away.
What do you think the pre-order bonuses would be for Assassin's Creed Chimfucker?
Well, I think there'd be a statue.
Just a very detailed depiction of the act.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, but and not like a little one, like 30 feet tall, in the middle of Times Square, with Richard Dawkins' face incredibly recognizable.
I mean, it looks like the Game of Thrones throne, you know?
Right.
That size.
Well, the other thing is, like, this is Ubisoft, and the problem with this is, Ubisoft these days is known for, like, 30 different editions, with different special edition bonuses. So, anything you could think of, we could put it in an edition.
It's Assassin's Creed Chimfucker going in Raw Edition.
But, you know, to me, that was a logical conclusion of where the Assassin's Creed series was going.
Yeah, and you still maintain that?
Yeah, definitely. More so, because with Odyssey and Origins, we're going further back.
Oh, yeah.
Someone was telling me something that I thought I was reading someone because I never finished Assassin's Creed Origins, right? And the whole thing with Assassin's Creed Origins was like, this is going to be it. This is it finally, like the beginning of the Assassin's Order. And then someone told me that there's a bit where Bayek gets, when he gets given the wrist blade, and I didn't remember this.
I've heard about this.
He gets given the wrist blade and she says, it's an ancient weapon. I'm like, what? We're in ancient Egypt. Who invented this fucking thing? The cavemen?
How much more ancient can it be?
The marmosets? Like, the fish that first climbed out of the water with their fucking wrist blades?
Fin blades.
Yeah. That's the Assassin's Creed game I want, you know? Assassin's Creed Primordial Soup, where you play an amoeba trying to take down these key trilobites.
Isn't that basically what Flow is?
Or like the first stage of Spore.
Right.
But yeah, apparently, word on the street is, you read a book.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The first one.
I was genuinely interested and was trying to get us back on. I wasn't trying to condescend to you, make you sound like an illiterate child.
Hey, good job, buddy. You read a book.
Hey. But yeah, no, tell me about it.
So I started reading this book, and what actually got me, I mean, I knew about this book for a long time, because it's actually done by one of my favorite authors, one Mr. Philip Pullman.
I was going to say, Dr. Zeus has got another one out.
Yeah. He's like Tupac. Is he really dead? Because he keeps on coming out with new stuff.
It's a hologram of Dr. Zeus. It's going to sing with Justin Timberlake at the next awards.
I'm so in.
Don't be so quick to... I wouldn't appear on a stage. I wouldn't appear with my rage. Continue.
One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
Do you remember when he appeared with that hologram of Prince? And they found that video of Prince before he did it saying, oh, people doing holograms of appearing with dead people. I think that's like the worst, most evil, disrespectful thing in the world. And it spread on social media and everyone was like, is he going to respond? What is his response when he sees it's going to be? And it was just like, fuck it. Fuck you, Prince. Purple rain. Purple rain. I think they should have swapped it. I think that what they should have done. I mean, he didn't exactly say that, but he might as well have done. There was no way he didn't hear, right? I think he should have just doubled down and done a duet with Prince, but the footage they should have used should have been that interview clip of Prince saying it was the most satanic thing he'd ever heard of. You know what I mean? And then he should have brought Prince's body on stage, like the coffin. Popped it open and just like jiggied up against it, you know?
Have me naked by the end of this song.
No. Prince thought it would be wrong. Prince thought it would be wrong for me to appear with a hologram of him on stage. But we don't know what his opinion would be of me threading his wrists with twine and rigging up a complicated pulley system from the top of the stage and forcing him to dance to Puppet on a String.
It's just Justin Timberlake, his arm all the way up Prince's ass.
No, not even singing, doing like a full-on ventriloquist act. He's still got it, folks. What's that you say, Princey? Justin Timberlake's your favorite artist of all time? Shibbida, 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 shoo.
Watch what happens when I drink this glass of water. Glug, glug, glug. Raspberry beret.
Starfish and coffee. Do do do. Who's the worst person in the world, Prince? Britney Spears.
Stand in the way of love and we will smoke them all.
And then when he starts, like, dropping the water and it's getting all over the place. So this is what it's like when doves cry.
I just love the idea of Justin Timberlake just being an aggressively disrespectful human being. Where it's just like, oh yeah, he thinks holograms are terrible. Fuck it, Purple Rain. Purple Rain.
That's what he did. He did exactly that. Everyone, like, it made huge news that Prince thought holograms were satanic, were his words. And then he was just like, let's just not acknowledge it. Let's just pretend nobody knows.
So I read a book.
Sorry, is that you or is that Prince as performed by Justin Timberlake?
I read a book.
Continue.
Yeah. Whew. So yeah, the book is written by Philip Pullman.
Oh, I love Philip Pullman.
I've known about this book for a while, but I didn't realize that it was actually part of a larger series. And I don't mean series in terms of like they all share a universe, but this publisher, Canongate, decided to do this series of books where they tapped all these authors to do basically rather short novels, retelling myths.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, and so I checked it out from the library as well as one from Margaret Atwood. She did one as well.
Was it about a superhero that's half owl, half
angel, half cat? Right?
Yeah, it's groundbreaking comic book narrative. Sorry, continue.
Real quick, Lou's Corner says, did I hear Toph? I heard a cat's collar, so I assumed yes.
This is the beginning of a horror movie in which people all around the internet are killed by giant cat people.
Did you hear cat collar? Through the roof.
Like Batman Begins. Swear to me! But they are all wearing little jingly collars. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Oh no, it's like Green Goblin attacking Aunt May. Finish it.
From me.
Oh yeah, Lou's Corner and goes, oh wait, never mind. Could have been my cat as she sits next to me. Occam's razor, folks.
The lost Sherlock Holmes mystery.
Where's the mysterious cat? Oh no, it's my cat.
Whatever grave more were like solved by that. Like, witnesses said that a cat was seen fleeing the scene. We must find that cat.
Oh,
I'm picking up evidence that the cat has been all over my apartment. Oh, sorry. No, this is my cat. There it is.
Yeah, my cat is absolutely a murderer.
Or as I call him, Dr. Watson. My name's Dr. Watson. Charlotte Watson. Quiet, second Watson. Yes. I've been here longer. Shouldn't I be first Watson? Second Watson.
Interesting.
But I'm fonder of first Watson, and therefore that leaves only one detective conclusion. You must be second Watson in my heart.
And also a murderer.
Your name is the same as my cat, ergo you are a cat, ergo you are the killer. Inspector Lestrade. Inspector Lestrade, arrest this man-cat at once.
I mean, all right.
Whatever you say, Mr. Holmes.
I got nothing better to do today.
You'll all go down. Yeah, this is the third one this week. Mr. Hope suggests there's a real man-cat epidemic on the loose.
Cut to Lestrade 5 hours later in a bar. Yeah, I've arrested 6 people under the assumption that they're cat people. We just let them go afterwards.
No, they're all down at the police station in the cells, but the guards are putting down little bowls of water. Kitty, kitty, kitty. My name is Reginald. I work in the butcher's. Who's your grumpy boy?
He's sitting there going, look, we all know it's ridiculous, but it makes Holmes so happy.
Yo, since he got that cat, it's really been working on his antisocial personality disorder. He's like a whole new man. He's put all of us in prison. A whole new man.
I think you mean a Holmes new man.
Holmes, there's been another murder. Come, Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson chronicles all my mysteries.
Let's see what he has to say. Paw print, paw print, paw print. Riveting.
He's captured me entirely. I do like to hold paws. Another case chronicled, Dr. Watson.
You're so much better than Second Watson.
You don't talk too much. You don't insult me in your stories. For the first time in my life, I feel like the world's first emotionally complete consulting detective.
Really well-rounded and level-headed. Now, quick, Watson, pass me that opium.
Watson, you always know the correct vial.
Oh no, this is arsenic. Watson, you betrayed me.
The pain in my arteries could not match the pain in my heart.
Oh, I could never hate you.
Mrs. Hudson, the antidote. Oh, wait. We sent her to the cat jail.
Yeah, it was a really weird chapter in your life when you accused a vial of medicine as being a cat. We're actually still trying to work that one out, but we're not gonna dispute your judgment.
So you read a book.
Yeah. So okay. This one, like I said, it was a series of books all retelling myths in a different light. All right. Either changing
We just did a bit of that.
Just either changing the time period, telling them from a different perspective, or just making a tiny little change which would actually alter the myth completely, right?
Like Star Wars Infinities, the comics where they make one change and then retell the movie differently.
Yeah. So the one I'm reading right now is by Phil Pullman, and the book title is called The Good Man Jesus and the Scoundrel Christ.
Okay.
And the premise is basically retells the Jesus story, but the idea is that Jesus and Christ are two separate people. They're actually twin brothers.
Okay.
And what you get is that what's very strange about it, about the book, is that it's written in that very plain, straightforward way that a fairy tale or like an Aesop's fable is told, right? Because when you read like an Aesop's fable, it doesn't use a lot of figurative language. It's very straightforward.
Right. And it's almost presumptive, if you know what I mean. In that,
right.
Like, we understand completely that everybody will know what the personality is of a badger. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's called Badger, and he does this thing, and that's it.
Loose Corner says, I'm just dying of laughter while you two talk about cats and Sherlock Holmes. Well, good.
Tough, it's over now.
Yeah.
You've done it again, Watson!
You killed Loose Corner. So I read this book, and so what's interesting about this book, right, is that, like I said, it's written in a very straightforward way, but just doing that actually really changes things about the story, right? For instance, he retells the whole story of the conception of Jesus or Jesus Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if you read the Bible, it goes in great length saying like an angel came down and bestowed upon Mary a child, and da 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 da. You know, she was still untouched by man. It's an immaculate conception. She's still a virgin. Blah 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 blah. Right. It tells the same thing, right? It doesn't change any sort of details, but instead of saying it like that, it says Mary received a knock at her window one night. She opened it to find an angel who had taken the disguise of a man from town. Right?
It's always her excuse. No. He was an angel.
Well, it even gets worse than that, right? Because it says, like, the angel afraid that Mary would be afraid of him.
Afraid that Mary's dad would come in at any moment.
I mean, like, you can make as many jokes about this book, like, does not do her any favors, right? Because it says, like, oh no, I've taken the image of a man from town so not to scare you, but I have a secret. Tonight you will conceive a child. But no, Joseph is away at work. How could I conceive a child? God wants this to happen. Let me in.
Yeah, we've all used that one on a lonely night when the date's not going the way we thought it would.
Right.
No, baby. God wants this to happen.
So the thing is that there's another little detail, right, that makes that very plausible in the book, where they describe where he describes Mary's upbringing, right, is that her parents were unable to conceive a child until they prayed, and then conceived a child, and then as a gift to God, they gave her to the temple, right? And the temple raised her. So that suggests that the temple raises her until she is 13, where they essentially give her to Joseph, who keeps her at home and never lets her go out. So we're talking about a very sheltered woman who all she knows is the teachings and the words of God, right? So a person claiming to be an angel, she's going to buy it, right?
Right.
So that right there kind of like really throws things for a loop. So what happens is that she has two kids, Jesus and Christ. And it gets to a point where Jesus meets, and like I said, it doesn't really change any of the details or the chronology. What's it? Chronology, right?
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Yeah.
Yeah, assuming you mean it the way I think you do. It is a word.
It doesn't change any of the series of events that happen in the Jesus story. So yeah, he meets John the Baptist. John the Baptist gives him his baptism, and during so he decides that, I have a higher calling, and that I am the Son of God. And he goes out and starts preaching and does his basic Jesus stuff, right? But what you get is actually an account of what Christ is doing during the whole time. And what he's doing is recording the events that Jesus is doing. But at a certain point, he is visited by a stranger, right? And they kind of make reference that this is probably the devil, right? This is probably Satan. And basically says that, look, history and truth are not the same thing. it is your job to record the truth, as it will benefit mankind in the future rather than the history. So what you get is Christ following Jesus around, recording his accounts, but changing little details to make them more fantastic and to make them, because we also find out through this book that Jesus, not exactly as loving as we've been led to believe. Because the funny thing is, like, if you read the Bible, they repeatedly say that, okay, the Israelites are God's chosen people, right? The beloved people. Jesus is the King of the Jews. He's, it's very much like that, right? In this book, they make that out to be like, yeah, he really buys into this. He doesn't give a damn about Gentiles.
Interesting.
Like, and he repeatedly says, like, no, I am here as, to preach to God's beloved people. The hell with everyone else. Like, and so Christ is recording these down, but kind of changing things to make it sound like he's way more accepting of everyone else. And the weird thing is that he doesn't have bad intentions. He firmly believes in this idea that that Jesus keeps going around talking about the kingdom of God, but in Christ's perception is that the kingdom of God can't possibly exist on earth because earth is imperfect.
Right.
That the real calling is to make something that resembles as close as possible to the kingdom of God here on earth, to basically prep people for the actual thing when they pass on. And in his mind, he interprets this as forming the church, right? So Christ's whole thing through this is he's trying to record the accounts of Jesus in order to form a doctrine that would create a church that is supposed to resemble the kingdom of God as closely as possible.
It sounds fascinating.
It's really interesting, like this book, and like I said, the whole thing is written as like an Aesop's fable, so it's very, very plainly spoken. Like there's no weird. You don't have to interpret everything. It tells you exactly what's happening. But then as it builds and builds and builds, you have to basically go, oh, that's what's going on, right? It's one of those kind of books where it doesn't try to hide anything, but you need more and more information as you go to really understand what's happening.
I think I might read it, actually.
It's really interesting. It
sounds genuinely interesting. I mean, Philip Pullman's always had like one foot in deep theology while being critical of it anyway. He's that kind of writer.
Right.
So it'd be kind of interesting to see what he does with it.
I mean, like, the thing is that he's not made it... What makes this very interesting to me is... Sorry, just reading the chat real quick. Is this Loose Corner says, Tosh, did you kill Loose Corner? No. Jacques.
If you were smaller than her, she would.
Yeah. What's interesting about like Philip Pullman, I always thought, was he's not necessarily he's never hidden his disdain for the church.
Gasp.
Yeah. He does not like the church at all.
Who does?
Right. Specifically, he has issues with the Catholic Church, which, la gasp, everyone does. But what makes this interesting is that in this book, Christ is actually the more logical and level-headed character, right? Because he goes through this whole section in the book where he basically describes how frustrated he's getting with Jesus, because whenever anyone asks Jesus a question, instead of answering it fairly in the context of the question, he changes the context and uses like a parable. And people just accept it because they are afraid of, they're basically afraid of earning the ire of his followers.
Right.
But yeah, like the whole thing, like Christ is like, what? That doesn't answer the question. Like, it's really interesting. So it's funny because this character Christ, whose ultimate goal is the formation of a church, is presented in this book by a man who hates the church as the more reasonable character.
Well, I think that's kind of a it's kind of a position. It's not my position, but there's a position that you see a lot of atheists take, which is the problem with things like Jesus is just the false belief, right? But there's a lot of good in there. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of not of the core idea that fundamentally religious ideas have inherent value. There's a lot of people who think that, right? Like it unifies people, it brings people together, and you find people often have this core central belief to that, which is that there's something good in the church, even if it's now a corrupt institution. Do you know what I mean?
I guess for me, it comes down to the good parts of any religion or system of belief. Anything that's good about it isn't reliant on it being religious.
Absolutely. Yeah, if
but I will say that generally I can accept the religion part of it as being a useful vessel. If you get what I'm saying?
Sure. Sure, but for me it's a case of where that you see a lot of people who want to keep the bits that make them feel warm and fuzzy as a leftover and separate that from the negative stuff. And I don't necessarily think they're always separable. Like, for example, I would say at this point in human history, anyone who is of an adult thinking age and chooses to be Catholic,
right,
as well, or part of the Catholic Church, has chosen to ignore things that should not be ignored. You know what I mean? There's nothing salvageable about the institution of the Catholic Church to me.
Right.
Even if there might be something salvageable about an individual church or an individual group. Does that make sense?
Right. I mean, it's one of those things too, where even within like certain faiths, like the Catholic faith, or even like Islam, there is always the official branch, right, and then the day-to-day practice in a community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, here's my thing. Like, I don't condemn people who choose to be Catholic, because for them, what the Pope does, what the official branches of that church does, really doesn't matter to them, right?
Right.
What they're there for, they're usually there. They go to their local church to be with the people they know from their community. And that's what's important.
Right, and then there's people for whom it just happens to be a personal expression of faith that happens to resemble the rigmarole of Catholicism. You know what I mean?
Right.
The dressing. It's a little bit like this issue where you've got these horrible where is it, where they're driving out the Muslims and they keep saying that they're Bangladeshi immigrants, but they're not. They're from the country. I've forgotten what country it is, but they're a Buddhist majority country. And they're driving out this minority religion that's been there. They are native to that country, but the government basically spreads propaganda that they're illegal immigrants from Bangladesh in order to render them stateless, because they can't go back to Bangladesh because they're not from Bangladesh. And it's leading to a genocide. It's a terrible situation. But people are often...
Is it Burma?
Hold on. Well, it wouldn't be Burma. It wouldn't be Burma anymore, but
Burma's a country, isn't it? So?
It's not called Burma. Myanmar. Yes, it's Myanmar.
Okay.
That is Burma, but it's called Myanmar these
days.
Burma's the old imperial name.
Okay.
Yes, it is Myanmar.
Okay.
And Myanmar is a Buddhist majority country, right?
Right.
And there's a really interesting article someone had about a lot of people hear this and they go, what? But Buddhists are all about peace and stuff like that. And the article is basically saying, no, when you have a dominant religion in a country, you know what I mean? The actual tenets of the religion tend to become kind of meaningless. So to them, when they say things like, in the name of this religion, thing like that, it's not the actual tenets of Buddhism.
Hold on.
Whoop. Yep. Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I'm back.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry, my headphones cut.
So what the article was basically saying was, it's not... but Buddhism for these people in this almost 100... Well, this dominant Buddhist society is practiced as a very ritualized day-to-day tradition thing, not as a thing where the vast majority of people are deeply interested in what Buddhism teaches. Do you know what I mean?
Which is always weird to me. Okay, I get it with certain religions, right? Islam, I understand. Christianity, I understand. Because
they're very prescriptive as well.
Right, and there's very much the whole idea of a judging God, right? A God whose standards you have to meet. That's kind of the core function of those religions. Buddhism is very strange to me because it doesn't, at its core, isn't about any sort of deity. It's kind of like a way of living in order to reach a certain place, right? But it's not about actually impressing or passing a test as prescribed by any deity. You know what I mean?
Right. But then you've got this situation in Myanmar where Buddhist religious leaders are calling for the deaths of another religious group.
Right.
And in fact, they've just had to remove a very well established, I think it's the leader of the country, and she used to be a freedom fighter many years ago, and she won, I think, the Nobel Peace Prize, and they're talking about revoking it from her because she's actually not speaking out. She's in support of this genocide. So it's a terrible situation. It's one of the worst situations in the world, but it's being in part led by Buddhist leaders. And so it's one of those things where this is one of the things when it comes up with when people criticize things like Islam and say Islam is this inherently dangerous religion. No.
Any religion has the ability to become that when...
Right, because I think religions are crappy, and I think they need... You need to argue against them because if you let people make their decisions on bad ideas, it makes it easier, right? So I definitely think that, but even if you have something which at its core is as fundamentally peaceful and not really prescriptive in the same way as Buddhism, and you still, when you let it become your dominant religion or your dominant institution, it still becomes fuel for that, you know. And so
I mean, essentially when it becomes dangerous is when the religion becomes an integral part of a government, right? That I feel is when it becomes the most dangerous, right? Is when religion itself becomes an inherent part of a country's makeup.
Well,
right?
I don't know, because the thing is, I've heard people say that too, and that seems to be a very American perspective, because America obviously has disestablishment and right from the beginning. But Britain doesn't. And Britain's actually one of the most secular, and until recently with the financial crisis, the problem with immigrants, it has a high tradition of religious tolerance in the 20th and the 21st century. It has a pretty crappy like Protestants versus Catholics bit, but that comes from a time when religious wars were...
You can't say bit when you refer to that
No,
issue.
but what I mean is that tenure under the Tudors of the alternate there comes from a time when that was also the worldwide standard of how people treated other religions. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We have a pretty good record, but we have...
Doesn't change. That doesn't really change that stance, though, where religion as used by a government is bad. Right?
No, I completely agree. I support the separation of church and state, and I'd like to see it come to Britain. But what I'm saying is, the long-term effect of having a state religion, the way Britain had an official, unseparated state religion, and lots of other countries in Europe, hasn't actually ended up in the way it's ended up in Myanmar and things like that.
Right.
I honestly think the cause is quite simply, if you have other troubles, it becomes a scapegoat. And then the religion becomes a divisive thing. Like, I think the reason Britain is a very, very, very secular country is there was a time when everybody was pretty much Christian.
Right.
And so you start off, and once a religion becomes totally established, there's no one to fight against for a bit. And then B, things were pretty good for Britain for, like 200 years. There wasn't an outsider force, and all the outsider forces that were likely to threaten us were also white Christian European. You know what I mean? So there was no sense of building up like another. So now we have a fairly tolerant society, and it's pretty. I mean, it's having issues lately with immigration and stuff, but I think other countries in the world, particularly Myanmar, which part of its problems are Britain's fault. I think it's a case of a lot of those countries, particularly in the post-imperial areas, have been, in a way, divided deeply in other ways that have gone on to be destructive. I mean, you see the same thing with, India and Pakistan and
right.
Yeah.
So, okay, to get back to the book in a sense, the funny thing is that even though it's dealing specifically with maybe the most influential story in history, it's not necessarily even, when you read it, it doesn't even come off as any sort of politically charged statement, right? It's not even trying to condemn the idea of Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't read like that. It doesn't read as a condemnation or even a. It's funny because like when you read the description or the synopsis, like a subversive take on. I'm like, it doesn't even feel subversive. Even what it almost feels like is more of a commentary on the nature of stories in general, like of how stories come about, why they come about, and what sort of purpose does the creation of stories serve? Right? It just happens to use one of the most important, or not important, but one of the most influential stories to do so. It's a very hard book to really describe, but it's absolutely fascinating, and it's a quick read. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's a very quick read. I've had it for 2 days, and I have 20 pages left, and I've been reading it like 10 minutes at a time here and there.
Fair enough.
It goes. I would highly suggest everyone go out and take it, as long as you have somewhat of a ability to.
This is another of those footnote moments. The last great holy war began when, on this episode of the podcast, named
Right.
"Those Aren't Biscuits."
I would say, like, okay, if anyone who's listening to this believes in God and Christianity and the tenets of it, I still think that this story could be entertaining and perhaps even enlightening to you, but you have to be able to separate your own faith from a work of fiction.
Right.
You know,
We don't want another satanic verses on our hand.
right.
Well, if you like that, I think speaking of Salman Rushdie, you might enjoy Haroun and the Sea of Stories. Have you ever read that?
No.
It's really good. It's
I don't particularly like Salman Rushdie.
Oh, but I think you would. I think you would like Haroun and the Sea of Stories.
I mean, I don't. Here's the thing: I don't dislike Salman Rushdie because of his beliefs or anything like that. I think he's just inherently kind of a pretentious prick to listen to. Like, when you listen to like some of his interviews and stuff, it's like, all right, calm down. Like, I don't know. He kind of rubs me off as a very self-important person.
Yeah, I guess when you've won so many literary prizes, you get the right to do a little bit of that.
I guess.
Haroon and the Sea of Stories is a really good book. It's a children's book.
Okay.
And he wrote it for his son to try and explain to his son why they had to go into hiding, basically. Okay. And it's a book about a boy called Haroon, whose father is a storyteller. That's his job. But then eventually his dad's imagination sort of dries up and he has to go and do different work in speaking. And he discovers that there are forces trying to basically steal his dad's imagination, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
And he basically goes on an adventure to fix this and to also try and sort of elucidate on the value of stories and the ability to tell stories. Essentially, It's a good book. It's a really good book. And what they are for in human society. You know what I mean?
Right. So, no, I thought it was interesting. You might actually get a kick out of this. So I'll, what's it called? I believe the series as a whole is called the Canon Gate Myth series.
I'll take a look.
So, Gate Myth series. Did I get that right? Yeah, here we go. So I'll read some of. So what they do is, what's actually really nice on the Wikipedia page is
I found out which one Margaret Atwood did.
Yeah.
A version of Odysseus from Penelope's point of view.
Right, and I'm actually kind of excited to read this because there's actually another thing that they add to it. If you read the description, is that so in the Odyssey, there's a point where Odysseus comes across 12 maids who have been hung. For it's supposed to be like traitors, I think, or something like that, or maybe like adulterers. It's probably adultery because that's usually what happens in these old stories. But those 12 hanging maids act as like a Greek chorus in the book, and they actually change up their style. So at one point they like, oh, this is what's happening, and they tell it in a very straightforward way. Next time they tell it like a jump rope song, the kind of song that people would sing while doing jump rope. And then like poems, and it seems really interesting to me to introduce weird concepts like that into like a traditionally prose book.
It's one of those ideas that it's such a shame that the vast majority of people would never read these books. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They just exist in a space that I don't know whether it's enough exposure or people just aren't interested in engaging in that way. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, to be fair, like they once again bring up the idea of pretentiousness, but they do. This does kind of have the air of snobbery to it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
This seems like the sort of thing that people would read in order to bring up at a dinner party to sound interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, but there needs to be a space for people who actually want to read that because they want to read it.
Oh, absolutely.
To exist.
Right. Like I don't feel like that should stop people from reading these sorts of things, but I see how it does.
It's better than pretending to be Jewish, John.
Jesus Christ.
We all know what you're going to be doing next weekend with your family tree.
No, there's no, some of these actually seem really interesting. Like I'm kind of curious about some of the takes on some of these. Like I said, I did check out the Penelope ad, so I'm reading that next. But there's other ones like I think it's the Fire Gospel by Michael Faber, telling the story of Prometheus. Prometheus has always been a kind of an interesting character in mythology to me.
Stole fire from the gods and gave them to the people who don't know.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
And then was punished by having his liver eaten out daily by an eagle.
And then, like, about 300 years in, one of the humans was walking past and he was like, we found all these rocks under these other rocks, right? And if you just bang them, they make fire? He was like, what?
Pretty crazy.
What? We got these rocks. And we just make as much fire as we need? We don't even need... You know that fire you got us? That we had to keep burning on, like, a series of never-ending fire? Don't need to do it anymore. We just... They were there all the time.
Yeah.
The whole time. And he was like, wait, what? Yeah.
No, it's pretty simple.
Here comes the eagle again. No!
Oh, look out. So what's interesting about this series to me, though, is, like you said, how I definitely feel like it should have been more well known, at least in literary circles, right? Like you can read the Wikipedia about the Canon Game Myth series, and it says, though the initial novellas received mixed to positive reviews, the project was heralded by many in the press as bold and ambitious, with the Metro calling it one of the most ambitious acts of mass storytelling in recent years. But I still feel like it kind of went by without much...
What kind of makes me laugh about that, though, is they're all like, look at what we're trying. It's such a bold new project. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, comic book fans are over there with, like, their Batman Gotham by Gaslight, Superman Red Sun. It's the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
It's, but that just goes to the whole... The reluctance of academia to acknowledge comic books as being modern day myth. Right? And they absolutely are.
It's like when people say, oh, future societies, they're going to be thinking that we worshipped Superman and thought he was real. And then you have to be like, well, no, because we're also going to leave all those books where we explain that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, they're all there, too.
Right. I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like, I've often wondered myself about, like, do you think that the ancient Greeks truly believed in some of the pantheon?
I genuinely don't. I think that maybe there was an early stage of belief or levels of some kind of belief, but I think that personification was basically literature.
Yes, I agree.
I think about a lot of religions, actually. There's an interesting thing, because, I mean, obviously, we're at the point now where we've managed to record data in such a way that it'll be around forever, you know? Sinister Minister says the lighter came before the match. Okay. Did it?
Yeah, I think it did, actually.
But it was...
Okay, hold on. So... Now, do we mean the actual lighter itself did, or the concept of the lighter? Because then I understand. Because the lighter is basically based on the whole principle of flint and steel.
The Zippo,
which I would
no
acknowledge as coming before
the
match, which is saltpeter and
the Zippo with the lifetime guarantee, with a Felix the Cat engraving on the side.
Just. From the ground, a massive hand holding a silver bic. You know?
a Zippo with a tribal tattoo pattern.
I was gonna say with the Confederate flag.
Now we know what side God's on.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like we're at the stage now where, like, you know, we have digital media, right? And and hard copies and things. We're not going to, like, probably language isn't going to change as much as it used to. All kinds of things, right? But I was reading this thing once. Have you ever heard about this committee where scientists got together to find ways to preserve knowledge about nuclear waste?
What?
Okay, so it was really interesting. A group of scientists and governments and things, they started to get really concerned, right? Because we were making nuclear waste and stuff. This was in, like, the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And nuclear waste obviously has this insane half-life, right? It's dangerous for centuries. But they already knew, okay, 10,000 years ago, nobody spoke the same languages we speak now, and we had to go through all this stuff and find it archaeologically, right? What if we bury all this nuclear waste somewhere, and then the records get lost and things change and we don't know it's there? How do we let future races know that it's there? And they were having this, and I was reading this and I was like, this is a really clever thing to think of, and really important, and what different ideas they could come up with. Do you know what one of them was? Like, the really prominent one was, okay, we breed cats that turn bright yellow in the presence of radiation, and then we start a religion where one of the tenets of the religion is, if there are yellow cats around, don't dig here. I was like, what? That was your idea? Not like engrave on a big stone like a comic book anyone could understand, or anything like that, right? Not like take the hardest and most durable materials known to man and do it in pictures, because that would be my thought, right? Something that would last for as long as humanly possible, but like in pictures, that aren't going to change, engraved and diamond coated and everything like that, right? No, I didn't even get to, can we breed cats that change color in the presence of radioactive waste?
I mean, it's funny. Like, I remember, yeah, it's a really shitty idea, right?
And then deliberately start a religion. All right, lads, this is our new faith.
Look, even though we all are men of science, we all have to go out and basically become apostles and
of the bad glowing cats.
Yeah. The Church of the Latter-day Cat.
Sherlock Holmes was our founding member.
Second Watson. All hail Second Watson.
No, Second Watson was the human being.
Oh shit. Glory be unto First Watson.
Although, wait, that would confuse Lestrade, though. Second Watson was a human being, but he's been locked up 20 years. We don't feed him unless he meows. Meow.
So, actually, the funny thing about this, right, is that this reminds me of a moment I had in high school that really frustrated me because I got in trouble for this.
Sinister Minister says, pray to cat, the death steam does not escape. like Return of the Living Dead.
So, what this actually reminds me of is, when I was in school, I took this class in high school where they were discussing the history of pictograms. Right. Where, I mean, the most classic example is when you go to a bathroom, the image for man is, just round circle, simplistic body, right? Right. And woman is round head, triangular body, like as if she's wearing a dress, right? Right. And the teachers explain this as, oh yeah, pictograms were designed to convey information without the need of language to stand the test of time. And it was that last part that bothered me. Because I raised my hand, I'm like, well, hold on. Unless we consistently have people forwarding this information on, that pictogram can mean something completely different in 1,000 years, depending on fashion.
Right. I mean, we couldn't translate Egyptian hieroglyphics for a very, very, very long time because we had no frame of reference for them. Mm-hmm. We needed to find the Rosetta Stone, which then translated them into Greek for that to work. I mean, I realize they're not directly comparable to pictograms exactly, but
right.
But it turned out like wavy water didn't actually mean water.
Right. But yeah, the teacher kind of argued with me about it, essentially saying like, well, The problem is that she asked me how I would determine it, right? And I was like, okay, well, give me a few minutes. She said, okay, well, by the end of class, give me your idea. And this was my idea at the time. Now, granted, I am in high school at this time, all right? I think if given the opportunity again, I'd do it a little differently. But my design was two of the identical figures, right? It was essentially the same symbol as the male symbol, right? Whereas the basic human shape, arms, legs, but instead the legs were spread apart. And that for the male, there was a triangle between his legs pointing down. And for the female, it was the same symbol, but a triangle pointing up between the legs. That was my solution, right?
Which was kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb you got in trouble for that. Because
I did, but I got in trouble because she said I was being crude.
To me, that's prudishness. Because if you're gonna open the conversation, like, or talk about it, you need to be open to the fact that that's a legitimate valid response. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, because my thinking was, okay, fashions, the concept of a dress,
right,
may not exist in 1,000 years, but as long as humans exist, a penis and a vagina will probably still be around.
Right.
And I think someone with a legitimate ability to kind of read between the lines would determine that, okay, inside triangle, vagina, outside triangle, penis, right?
Or sad man, happy man.
Warm, cold.
In the future, women will not pee.
They'll just sweat a lot.
No, I totally get what you mean, and the whole thing that's like, why would the pictogram on the left represent man anyway? If it didn't have the other one, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that simplified person that's just a shape of all humans. If you simplify them down to those key shapes,
Right, and it kind of leads into that that weird debate where it's like, is man default for human,
right,
or does it require female as comparison?
Right. And it's because your point is completely valid, right? I mean, these days when we talk about things like gender and transgender and stuff like that, your point raises new criticisms of your point, but different ones. Whereas your point was that biology is more likely, or physical biology is more likely to stand the test of time than clothes. I think it's kind of dumb that you would get in trouble for that. To me, that seems like a valid point. Do you know what I mean? Like an actual intelligent point. Teachers are shitty.
They are. I mean, and the weird thing is, like, I don't even, to this day, I don't even necessarily think that this teacher was prudish or even not intelligent, right? I think that this teacher was very, very egotistical, right? And her issue was not me being crude by referencing man and woman by their genitalia. It was, I challenged her.
Yeah.
Like, so she found a reason.
So I was a very computer literate kid. Incredibly so. And I had a teacher who was substantially not as computer literate as me, which you wouldn't get that today, I don't think, for IT. It was for IT specifically. But early 2000s, that wasn't that uncommon. That was not that rare, because a lot of the people who were teaching IT, they were either teachers of other things that also taught IT, or they were people who trained in IT as adults, And there is a difference.
I got a good one for you. My computer skills teacher was flat out the same teacher that taught typing
Right.
But because she was familiar with the keyboard, they just slid her into computer.
Right. I had exactly that situation. And so this teacher was always trying to make me do my work in a way that was slower and less efficient than the way I was trying to do it. And wrote me a school report that was like a lengthy diatribe about how I won't listen to anyone. Like, lengthy. No, like, every time I'd ever had reports up to that point from IT teachers, it was one of the few subjects where people were like, this kid's like practically a computer savant, you know what I mean? Not that I was, it's just that you probably remember, you went to school same years as me. Yes. You had a lot of computer teachers who didn't really know that much about computers. It was that age. Whereas,
it was the case of we were the lucky ones, right? You and me specifically, just you and me, no one else. I mean, your age group and my, we're the same age group. Our age group, I think, is very, very lucky because we fortunately got to witness the birth or the explosion of this technology and the evolution into what it is now through essentially the same rate as we grew older.
Right. And we were the first generation raised with modern computers and visual operating systems and things like that.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's people who are older than us who are very, very good at technology, who are very, very good with personal computers and cell phones and everything like that. But we have a sort of added benefit of this being part of our makeup. You know what I mean? Like, our upbringing is very entwined with the advancement of technology.
It's like the difference between growing up in a French-speaking country and trying to learn French as an adult. Mm-hmm. It's the difference between being a native speaker and being anyway. Mm-hmm. I had some weird school. Most of my school reports were always pretty good, and then I had that one, and then I had this teacher in drama class, and so I was a kid who was bullied pretty badly in school. I mention every now and then. I'm not dwelling. I'm getting the weepies on, but I was. And one of the things, if you're a kid who's bullied, one of the worst things to do is like group work, right? Because if you're ostracized, you're not going to give opportunities to work. Even getting into when you are the kid who is forced out, getting into a group is difficult, So when I would do drama classes, I would have the same thing every week, which is she'd say, go get into groups. And I would go and say, would you like to work with me? And I'd be told, no. You know what I mean? Like, and as an adult, this makes total sense to me, right? Because I knew kids and I was a kid, and kids can be shitty, right? And it's not something I'm still like harboring a big grudge over, but kids can be exclusionary and shitty and things like that. That's what they're like. Mm-hmm. And the only way I would ever get into a group each week was I would have to say, look, no one is being willing to work with me. So she would like walk me to a group and say, look, you are going to have to work with him, right?
Right.
Not a nice feeling, kind of shitty, fine. You deal with it. When you're that kid, you learn to deal with it. And then, of course, we get into the group, they don't let you work. So I ended up being like either backstage or like in the barest of bare minimum of roles because they would just put it in a situation where they would do their thing and anything I contributed would be cut out.
I think my headphones cut out again.
Okay, well, I can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
All right, back. I can hear you. John's on his way back, everybody.
I'm back.
Hey! So anyway, like that doesn't bother me, right? Like, it happened, it was a shitty way to treat me, but I was a kid, and I was a weird kid, and because I was a shitty personal situation and stuff. And I have, like, a ton of forgiveness for those kids who treated me like that, because it was crappy, but that is what kids do. You learn, and you be better, and you grow up, right?
Right.
My teacher wrote me a really shitty school report for that, calling me, like a loner by choice who refuses to work with anyone and was, like, a constant fucking drain on her resources in class.
Great.
Like, a really, like, scathing thing. And it was really shitty, too, because my dad was, like, my lifeline, right? Like, I would come home and he would be, like, always in my corner and helping me out and stuff like that. And, like, he read that school report and came away with the idea that I'd been, like, making a fool of him over it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd been playing up how shitty things were for me. And then, and because the problem is, for my dad, it was easier to believe that it wasn't as bad as I said it was than to believe he was sending me every day to, like, a nightmare. You know? And so, for him, that was like a way out, that school report. And our relationship never really 100% recovered from that one report. All because that teacher, I think really, it was one of those things where that teacher just didn't want to believe, because she was a drama teacher and the class were drama students and all very enthusiastic. Everyone was having a great time but me. She didn't want to believe that all those kids that she thought she had a really great relationship with could be shitty people as kids, you know? And because she couldn't get to that place, she really screwed things up for me. It was really weird. It's not like some burning, seething resentment. I'm getting all out on the thing now. But it was when you were saying about, like, teachers with arrogance. I encountered a bit of that. Teachers who, surprisingly, because they'd chosen to be teachers, had no clue about kids. You know?
Right.
And you see that a weird amount.
So oddly enough, when the first, like, literally one of my very first teachers, was a kindergarten teacher. I don't remember her name. She's probably dead by now. So,
yeah, fuck her. It was how you said it. Sorry.
She was very, very old when she was my kindergarten teacher. So and we're talking, you know, over 20 years.
Was she actually old, or were you just like the kind of, young?
She was old. She was old. I've seen pictures of her. I found pictures of, like, me from that age with her in the picture. She was old. But anyways, she oddly enough set a trend that followed me probably up until my first or second year in high school, where I first encountered, like, young teachers. But it was, most of my school career was this weird frictional relationship with my teachers, of them believing how kids should be, and me being a fiercely independent person.
Right.
And funny, my mom loves telling this story, right? The very first parent-teacher conference she ever had to go to was with this teacher, this kindergarten teacher. And the first thing she says is, well, Jonathan's a fine student in the skills section, but he unfortunately marches to his own drummer. Right? Those are the words that my mom has said over and over again, quote for quote. Unfortunately marches to his own drummer. Right? And that, for some weird reason, has stuck with me forever. And, like, I don't consider myself a rebel or a revolutionary or anything like that, but that's kind of been a long-running problem with me and teachers. Like I said, until I started running into teachers who were younger, of me just being, and I will admit to this, sometimes I would go out of my way to
march to your own drummer.
Yes. Specifically because I was kind of at this position where I thought that's how it was supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Right.
In a weird way, I was trying to conform to this idea of kids are supposed to be nonconformists, you know? And sometimes I would actually go out of my way to do it. And you know, when you do that, you're basically an asshole. So I was kind of an asshole kid.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But we should probably wrap up here. I gotta make myself some dinner. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm done. Let's go for it. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Fuck you. I'm done talking to you, you boring bastard. Let's go. No, you're lovely.
I know.
Just being enthusiastic and trying to get out of here without insulting your grandparents anymore.
Anymore, yeah. My fake Jewish drowning in grain grandparents.
Is that just one grandparent? Oh no! I mean, Oive!
I'm so verklempt. All right. Thank you all for watching. This has been another episode of Those Are Biscuits. I've been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadot. With me, as always, been Owen Adams.
Before we
Owen,
go, Sinister Minister says, good show. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate that.
It's a lie, but, you know. And then it says, go away.
But yes, I've been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadot. With me, as always, been Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you?
Oh, go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams. John, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. Or you can follow this channel right here on YouTube. Or there's a new third option.
There's a fourth, actually.
You can go...
Carry on.
Is there?
Carry on.
Oh. Okay, well, the third options of the 4 mysterious options is you can follow me on Twitch, which is twitch.com/JCRizzle12. Well, I've been doing writing streams there. I've been writing a new novel on stream. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And what's his 4th option?
You can go to John's all-new home address at... I was going to give you a moment of panic.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C.
That's where you'll find a guy who is a bit like John in certain ways.
Yeah, we're white. But yes, until next time, have a good one.
Bye.